so tiny. Howdy everybody, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new to my channel then it's really great to have you join us Tone Geeks today. So the good folks over at Valeton sent me this tiny little beast, the GP5, and it completely changed how I think about backup rigs. It has a ton of amp models, effects, cabs, impulse responses, a tuner, an audio interface, runs in stereo, and even has the capability to load up neural amp model captures onto it. Phew, that's a mouthful, dude. And that's pretty sick as well for such a small package. And these things are like 75 bucks. Let me say that again. They're like 75 bucks. That's crazy insane. It's a no-brainer, to be honest. Now let me show you how small this is. I'm going to go to my B cam and look at the size of this. No, seriously, look at the size of this. It is absolutely minuscule. Now if you're watching this, the chances are that you've already seen some other full review videos about this with all the sounds and the features, etc., because it has been out for a few weeks. So today I'm not going to do a full review. Yeah, because that's been done like 100 times over, right? I'm going to show you how I built a super portable backup rig with this Valeton GP5 for when I play live. The live rig that I currently use with my covers band is my EVH 5153 LBX Stealth amp, which I totally adore, going into a 112 cab loaded with a 1978 Celestion G1280 speaker. And my pedal board is quite simple. It just has 4 pedals on it and my Boss ES5 switcher. It is simple, compact, powerful, and sounds like $1,000,000 to me anyway. I totally adore it. The tiny size of the GP5 means that I can throw it into the side pocket of my gig bag and have it as a backup anytime I need. But it got me thinking, okay, if my amp goes down and I don't have anything to amplify the GP5 with, do! And my switching will go down as well. Do! So I hatched a plan, and what I came up with is going to blow your minds, especially when you see how small this thing is. Now for the pedalboard platform, I wanted something super compact, so I measured everything up and found that the Pedaltrain pedal booster, which is actually an extension to the Pedaltrain pedal boards, was the perfect size. Although it isn't designed as a standalone pedal board, it is solid, it's made of metal, and it worked just great for the Nano backup rig. The next thing I needed was more switching, because the GP5 just has one switch on it. All it does is banks up, which is not much good to me when I need 4 sounds when I play live. A quick YouTube search revealed that the M-Vave, whatever. Anyways, the M-Vave Chocolate MIDI switcher worked with the GP5, and it was really tiny, really cheap as well, like 25 bucks cheap, which is a complete steal for a little switcher like this one. So I got one of those as well. I already had the Hotone Loudster power amp, which I've had for years, so power amp was checked off the list. There are smaller power amp units available, but I already had this one, so there was no point buying another one. And finally, the GP5, of course. That needed to be on there, right? A couple of cables and some Velcro to hook everything up, and I was ready. Putting it together was a piece of cake, and it took me literally a minute. Seriously, I timed it and it was like 60 seconds. First up, the GP5. I plugged in a short USB-C to USB-A cable so that I could hook it into the chocolate switcher and put it on the left-hand side of the pedal board. Now there is a reason why it's on the left-hand side rather than the right-hand side, which I'll explain in just a second. Next up, I put the chocolate switcher onto the pedal board and plugged in the USB cable from the GP5. To attach my guitar cable into the GP5, I used an L-shaped jack extension. Now you might be wondering why I just didn't put the GP5 on the right-hand side of the pedal board so I could plug my guitar straight into the input? Well, it's because I needed to get the power into the chocolate switcher, and all the connections are actually on the left-hand side. Now, if I'd put the power amp on the left-hand side, then I couldn't access these two plugs at the top and plug in the power. Ergo, the switcher wouldn't work and the GP5 wouldn't work. So the GP5 went onto the left-hand side, and this got my signal into the GP5. To power everything, I used a wall plug with a USB-C cable going into the chocolate switcher. The chocolate is actually a rechargeable unit, but in order to power the GP5 and to have the switching work, you actually need the power source going into the chocolate. If you don't have power going into the chocolate, then the switching won't work and the GP5 doesn't work at all. I did try this out, I experimented, and this is the way I got it working. The power cable slips nicely under the L connector on the GP5. You can also use a battery pack with this setup as well if you'd like. I chose the wall power because that's the most reliable and consistent if I did have to use it at a gig. Hey, if you're enjoying this Nano pedalboard build and it's been helpful, then make sure that you smash that subscribe button and hit the bell notification as well, so you know when new videos like this one come out. Thanks so much. Let's finish off this pedalboard. The final part is the Hotone Loudster power amp. This went on the right hand side like I explained, and then I connected it to the GP5 via a patch cable. I then plugged this into the power supply and voila, the pedalboard is done. That easy. Once I'd programmed the chocolate switcher with the Cube Suite app on my phone, it worked really well with this GP5, and I had access to 8 patches in 2 banks. The first bank holds my clean, rhythm, lead and overdrive with chorus tones. The second bank holds a 5150 rhythm, 5150 lead, NAM profile of my custom SLO 30 JP amp and a Vox AC30. I also set up the chocolate switcher so I can change banks by pressing the AB switches to bank down and the C and D switches to bank up. You know, the really great thing about the GP5 is that it is packed with amp models, effects, and can run NAM amp captures as well, albeit NAM captures with the cab burnt in. You can't do separate cabs with the NAM captures right now, which is a real shame, and I hope that Valeton do a firmware update at some point where you can have a separate NAM capture and add your own cabs. This ability to do amp modeling and captures makes it more appealing to me than something like the Tone X1. I love the concept and the compactness of the Tone X1. It's an awesome unit. For me though, the GP5 goes that one step further because I can use amp modeling part as well as the capture part. Plus the effects list is more extensive on this as well. And that allowed me to essentially duplicate my live setup and sounds in that Nano rig which I created. But here's the real test. Does the Nano rig actually sound good enough to save a gig? Let's plug it in and find out. That sounds so good in the room. It's punchy and powerful and full and in my face. I hope that comes across. I recorded it with the boom mic on my camera. Of course, my amp and my pedalboard are still my first choice, but this as a backup, man, I'm totally happy with that. And this Hotone Loudster power amp, wow, this can get pretty loud. I didn't have it all the way up when I was recording the clip because it was seriously loud in here, man. It delivers around 40 watts worth of power when I'm running it with my 2-speaker configuration, which runs at 8 ohms. And man, it sounds so good. I want to use this at my next band rehearsal, to be honest. I think the guys will like this. The GP5 has the ability to globally switch off the cab sounds as well on all the amp models. So when plugged into a setup like this through a power amp and a cab, the sound is absolutely fantastic. Like I mentioned earlier, the NAM captures have to have the cab sound printed onto them, which is a real shame because it means I cannot use them live, because it would be a cab into a real cab and then things get really muddy. I would need an FR cab for that to sound good, and that wouldn't make sense because I would already have my passive cabs. Then lugging along another cab just in case something goes down doesn't quite work when you play live. So I know you're dying to know what I used for my sounds. For my clean sounds, I used a Fender Twin amp with the Dark CS212 cab, a compressor, ping pong delay, and some really lush church reverb for those really wonderful clean sounds. For my rhythm tone, I reached for the UK 50 JP amp, which is based on the jumped Marshall 50 watt Plexi. Now, I would love to say that the JP part refers to my name, but it doesn't. It actually refers to the jumped part of the amp. I also used the green OD to boost the amp, and a little EQ bump at 1.6K and some ping pong delay for a little extra width. I added my own signature greenback impulse response for the cab tone as well on this one. Lead tones are handled by the Solo 100 amp model based on the mighty Soldano SLO amplifier. Again, my signature greenback cab IR on this one with some ping pong delay and some really nice hall reverb for some searing solos. One of the coolest things was that I was able to load up a NAV capture of my personal SLO30 JP amplifier. I did this capture as an experiment many months ago and it came out really great. I love the sound of it. So I loaded it up into the GP5. Now the GP5 does convert it to its own format, and I noticed that when it did that, it shaved off a little bit of the gain, which was a bit of a shame. But I was able to compensate for that by adding a boost pedal, and I used the green OD to do that. This was interesting from another perspective for me as well, because my lead patch I had created with the Solo 100 amplifier, which is Valeton's version of the SLO amp. And this was a direct comparison because the cab model burnt into my SLO30 JP NAM capture is the same one that I used on the GP5 lead preset. There are differences in the tone. My actual amp has a little bit more growl, a little bit more presence and bite, but Valeton does a great job of capturing the vibe and the essence of the SLO amp. You'll get to hear this on the track in a second as well, because I used my SLO30 JP capture for most of my lead tones. Now, I'm not going to blow smoke up your bungholes and tell you that this tiny little unit sounds just as good as my Fractal FM9 Turbo and it's a mini version of that unit. No, it's not. But it does sound really fantastic, and it is so much fun to play, and the portability makes it a no-brainer for a backup rig like I have built here. So there you go folks, awesome little unit this one. A huge thanks to the folks over at Valeton for sending this out to me to have a play. I had such a blast, and I created my backup rig, which I'm so pleased about. I love this little thing. Sounds great, feels great. It's so light and portable as well, right? If you enjoyed this one, you know the drill. Subscribe, like, and leave a comment, and let me know what you think of the GP5 and my Nano rig. Alrighty folks, it is time for the track. I wanted this track to rock you like a hurricane, and I used the stereo on the GP5 to go into my audio interface and then into Logic so that you can have the full experience of the tones that this little guy can create. All the guitar and the bass sounds and the effects were recorded using just the GP5, no external effects or plugins or anything like that. I think you will really like this one. Enjoy rocking out and have an absolutely fantastic day. I'll see you soon with another one. Bye for now.